Today we are going to see a new type of programming in QTP called description programming, descriptive programming. Descriptive programming. Descriptive programming. Now, what is descriptive programming? Till today, we have always used our object repository, shared object repository to capture the objects, right? Capture the objects and then store it in the object repository and then call them into our script. So we usually use the class. So how do we write the script? Class of object dot method, and this class depends on the hierarchy. The number of classes depends on the hierarchy. Now class is a function that is called in our from our QTP, but this is where it identifies what is the object about. This is what we learned till today. Now this comes from your object repository. Now using descriptive programming, we are not going to use object repository at all. We are going to work with the objects, how an object repository would use. There are so many advantages for this. Okay, there are multiple advantages. One, no dependency on object repository. If this gets crashed or anything happens, the whole scripting stops. So here there is no dependency on object repository. Two, this is dynamic programming. Where we can create objects and call them in our function call. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to create a text box object, right? And reuse this text box object by passing unique data parameter that is required for this particular identification. So we are going to work on that. We are going to see that. Now descriptive programming is divided into two types. Descriptive programming as such is divided into two types. Let's see what are the two types. Properties collection object, and string representation. You can call this dynamic programming and static programming. Dynamic programming is more complicated. Static programming is very simple. Now what we will do, we will take this static programming and call using functions. We'll write functions for this. We're going to see how to do this. Dynamic programming is we have to create objects and call the object. There are it's a two-step process. Step one, we have to create objects and step two, call the objects. Here this is a single step process where call and create will be in a single step. We'll see both. We'll see how to work with properties collection object, and we will see how to work with string representation. Okay, guys, any questions till now? Yeah.
Rajesh, now I remember why I raised my hand before Rajesh. Actually, it's my doubt actually.
Okay, I'll come back to you later. I'll come back to you little later. Huh? Okay. Just write your doubt and keep it. I'll come back to you. Okay, so now these are the two types. So let's see first properties collection object. I'm going to clean this up. How to create scripts using properties collection object. As I told you, this is a two-step process, right? Where we are going to create step one, create a description object, and then step two, call the object in the script. Now, before we create a description object or both, whether it is a properties collection object or a string representation, we have to follow almost a similar step. Now, I'm not going to use this, right? I'm going to close this. We open a new, no, I don't, okay, fine, I didn't save it. Fine. Now, I'm going to use a new here. Now, I am not going to add anything in my local object repository. Okay. Now, I want to create a description object for logging into the application. I wanted to log into the application. Now, here in descriptive programming, till now with object repository, we worked more with Windows-based application, and the web-based application is exactly the same, right? But in descriptive programming, Windows scripting is different from browser scripting. Okay, so we have to see these two individually. So first we will talk about Windows, and then we will take the browser portion. Now I wanted to log into this application. I'm going to use properties collection object. Now here what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a description object, right? In order to create an object, how do I identify, how does QTP identify this particular text box? I'm going to go to object spy, and I'm going to spy the object. Let's spy the object. I'm going to say for this one. Now you see here, this is what is the hierarchy. This is what you're going to see in your object repository. But what does this mean? What is this actually winedit.agent name? This is just a name. But if you see here, these are the properties. So with the properties, it is able to identify this particular object. Now let's see. Now let's go to our shared object repository. I'm going to go to shared object repository and add this object into our object repository. Let's and see what object repository learns about this particular object. Here. Now I have added it. You see here, this is the property. This is the property. Now with these two properties, it is able to identify this object. Now in the first class when we were talking about object repository, I changed the object name and I was able to point, I changed the description property and I was able to point to a different object. Guys, if you remember, right? So based on these two description properties, that is how object repository is identifying this. Where did it get this? How did it know that these are the two properties that is required? How did it know? How did object repository know? Right. For this, I would go to tools, object identification. Tools, object identification. This is the properties, or this is the where QTP identifies the object and what is the mandatory properties for a specific object. This is where it is decided. Now if you go to standard Windows, that's a WinEdit. Let's click on WinEdit. Here you see attached text and native class is the mandatory property. Must to have property. Go back to your object repository. You see? Attach text and native class. You see, that's what it's capturing. But if you see in object, if you go to object spy, if you go to object spy and spy that object, you will see n number of properties. You see here n number of properties are here. But in order to identify that property, only attach text, that's here, and native class. These are the two that is required. So now, based on this, so you will be going and seeing for this object identification, you go to our tools object identification, go to Windows, and you will see for WinEdit what is the mandatory property. Then you will go to object spy and capture that mandatory property. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going for properties collection object or string representation, the process is the same for capturing the objects, right? So I'm going to go and open a notepad. I'm going to open a notepad. Now what are the things that is required here? Agent name and password. So I have two text boxes and one button. This is what I need to capture. So I'll say, this is just a heading, agent name, password, and I'll say OK, button. Now these are things that we need. Now I'll go to my tool, object identification, standard Windows, edit box. These are the two that is required. So I'll copy this text for my this thing, copy this text here, and for both, right, for my native class, copy my native class, put it here. This is the same for both, right? So I'll put it for here also, for my password also. Now what is the mandatory property for button, Win button? Native class and text. Native class and text. These are the two mandatory properties, right? Now what I will do, I'll close this. I have my notepad here. I'll go to my object spy and I'm going to spy the object. Spy this object first, agent name. What is the mandatory property that is required? Attach text. Here is attach text. So I'll click on the agent name. Agent name comes here. You can copy from here. You cannot copy from this point. You cannot copy. That's why they have given you this text box. So you can copy from here. I'll just put agent name. See the semicolon, it's coming with the semicolon. Please put that also. Native class is edit. Equal to edit. The next is attach text and native class for password. Password. Attach text is password. And native class is edit only. So I'll copy this and put it here. Okay. And then for the Win button, what is the mandatory property? Native class. So I'll copy here. See, I'm moving using the control. I press and hold control and then you can move. Okay. Button. What is required? Native class and text. Native class is button. And text is what? Let's go and see what is text. Text is okay. Okay. So now I have copied all the mandatory properties. This step is the same for both properties collection object and string representation. This particular step is the same to collect all the mandatory properties. From here it will be different. So for the first step, step one, collect all the what is spelling of mandatory? I forgot. Mandatory properties for all the objects. So we did that. Now step 2. Step 2. Create description object for all the properties. Now let's create the description object for all the properties. So now I'm saying AG name is equal to description dot create. Okay. Now whenever I create a object or a variable which contains an object, what should I put in front of it? Anyone can tell me? Anyone? Yeah? What should I put?
Set.
Set. Yeah, perfect. So I say set. And then we have to declare that object. So I'll say dim AG name. Okay. Now I declared this. I put a set in front of it and created an object. Now I can use that object for my mandatory property. So I'll say OAG name of what is my description object here for my text, for my agent name, attach text dot value equal to what is the value of that particular description? Agent name. Agent name. Okay. What is the next one? OAG name. Let me take this, copy it, paste it in the next line. What is the next one that is required? Native class. Native class. What is the value? Edit. So I created a description object for my agent name. Now I want to see whether oh, okay, fine. Now for the hierarchy I missed the login, right? Dialog that we missed, right? The hierarchy should be there, no? So this is login. For login, what is the mandatory property for login? The mandatory property for dialog is child window, is owned window, native class and text. When you see native class and text, you can ignore rest of the things. Okay, keep it in mind. Native class and text is the main mandatory property. You can ignore rest of the things. So I'm going to take only native class and text. Okay. So where is my? I'll open my native class and text, right? So I'll take this here. Native class is already here, so I'll take this native class. Native class, and I'll say text equal to what? So I'll go to my object spy. I'll spy my object. Move this. Click on the dialog. What is my native class here? Native class is a number. So I'll put the native class here. Native class, and what is the text? Text is login. Text is login. Okay. So now I have to create a description object for my Similarly, I'm going to create a description object for the login. So I'll create it on top of this. Okay. So this is going to be my O login. Description dot create. Rest all is the same. I'm going to put like this, and what is the value here? Native class. So I'll take this out here. Put this in the next line. Native class. What is the native class? Is number. Put that here. Next one is text. Put that here. So I'll just remove the text here. What is the text? Login. Now let's see whether it works. We'll highlight that particular agent name and see whether it is working. So I'll say dialog of step 3. I'm going to write the step 3 now. Step 3. Object. So I'll say dialog class. Anyway, I have to write the class. So dialog of, and I will put, yeah, I'm just going to show you that I'm able to highlight the login and the agent name. Let's see that. I'm just going to show you that. So dialog of login of O login dot, I'm going to say highlight. Let's see whether it's working. Okay. Let's see whether this particular window is highlighting. Let me close this. So I'm going to run from top. Here you cannot run from a specific line. You have to run from the top to understand the objects. You see, I am able to identify that object. Now let's add the login name. Let's add the agent. So I'll say win edit of AG name dot highlight. Let's run this from top again. You see? Now instead of this highlight, if I put dot set and I put the value here, it's going to give me the value. See? Now I have to write the same thing for password and click on OK button. So I'm done with the password. Next I have to go with the OK button. Let's see now. Guys, any questions on this, on the property collection object? Like that, you have to keep adding those, create those objects, and you have to call them. Any questions on this? Any questions? Yeah. Go ahead.
Rakesh, do we need to use two property or can one property also work the same?
It can work. It can work. How do you find out? Good question. How do you find out whether two properties are required or one property is required? You have to say, example, for agent name. I'll take the agent name. I'll comment of this till this point. I'll put the agent name here. Dot highlight. Okay. Now in the agent name, what I'm using, I'll remove off the native class. I'll just keep the highlight. Okay. Let's see whether it is highlighting. This will, if it's highlighting, that means it's able to identify. So it is able to identify. So it's only one object is required here. So that's how we find out whether it is really required. You're getting me?
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys, on properties collection object? Any other questions? Okay. So the next what we are going to see is string representation. Okay. Now I'll keep this. I'm going to delete it. String representation. Now string representation, as I told you, is a single step process where we are going to put everything in one single line. So we are not going to create an object like this, where you are going to create an object like this and then call it in the script. No, we are going to put everything in the script only. There is a slight advantage for string representation compared to properties collection object. We are going to see that after we first learn string representation, we are going to see what is the slight advantage. Okay. Now in string representation, the first step is the same. This step is the same. Now instead of me creating an object, I am going to directly write like this: dialog of and what is required for the dialog? These two, right? So I know that native class is not required. I'll just put text equal to login. So here there is a small change. I cannot just copy put it like this. For here what I will have to do, after the text I have to put a colon. That's the only difference. So it says text, that is your property name, colon, equal to, and the value. Let's see whether it works. You see, it's working. So I need not create these objects and then call the object. So this is a three-step process that we did. First we identified the mandatory properties, then created the object, and then called the objects for properties collection object. While here, step one is the same. We identified the objects and then directly call the objects in the script. So let's do agent name now. I'll say when edit of what is in the agent name. Again, I know this is more than enough. So I'll take this, put it here, close, and here I have to enter colon. dot set. Similarly, I'm going to copy the whole thing again, put it in the next line. Instead of agent name, I can use the password. Password, and I'll copy this whole line. Of, here there are two things. I don't need a native class. Text is more than enough. So I'll say code text codes dot click colon. Now let's see how this works. So I'm going to write here run.
Rajesh, password, have to change password.
Password? Okay, wait, hold on. Yeah. Text equal to login. Yeah, text equal to okay, correct. Mercury, and text I copied up from the login text I copied up. It should be this one, right? Yeah. Fine. Now let's run this. Cancel. Launch. Run. Okay. God. Sorry. Wait, hold on. Stop. Not from top. If I run from top, I should have run from here. Run. You see, I'm able to do the same activity in single step rather than creating objects. So that is the difference between using property collection object and string representation. Directly put the values here. Yes, launch script is the same. It's the same. System run. Put the property here. See, I'm doing the same thing without object repository. Now, what is the other advantage of using this? You see here, these two are the same, right? For edit box, the only difference between the edit box here and the edit box here is the username. Sorry, the text, right? Attached text is the different one. So what I will do, I'm going to wait. First, I'm going to save this. Save as. Descriptive programming. Now what I will do, I will open a new function library and I'm going to call the function here edit. Okay, and I will give say example val1. Now I'm going to save this, save, and I'm going to put it in my function library saying descriptive programming. Okay. Now I'll go back to my program. I'll copy this whole line. Okay, and I'm going to put it inside my function. Okay. Now, what all is required here? Only the agent name is required here, right? And this value, and the value I'm going to pass this also. So I'm going to say I'll say ATT EXT, comma, AG name or the val. So I'll give like this to save this. Now I'll replace set as val here, val, and a small difference here. Now how do I replace this inside the quote? Just watch me, okay? I'm going to take this agent name out with the quote and I'm going to close the quote here. And then I will say concatenate ATT text. ATT text. Okay? I'll explain this. Let's run this first. Okay? So I'm going to go here. I'm going to associate the function library, descriptive programming. So that's associated with this. Yes. Now I'll go back to my descriptive programming. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to only use function calls now. That's all. So I will say first what I have to do, first I have to launch the application. So I'm going to use the same launch. I'm going to say launch and then what the edit box, right? So I'll say edit edit and what is the attached text here? Attached text is agent name. I'm going to pass the agent name in this. Agent name, comma. What is the value? Value is Rajesh. Now next one is password. So the function call is the same, right? So again edit. So once you write a function call for a specific edit box, you can reuse them again and again. So I'll say here, you don't need to write that also, comma. You don't need to write multiple times. Let's see whether this works. I'm going to run from here. I'm going to close this and run from here. Let's see whether it's working. Sub. So you have to take this out. Give me a second, please. This is one. No bracket. You see, I did not write the button function for the button, but one function I wrote for my edit box. Now the same function I can use, say example, I'm going to click OK. Let's write the function for button also. What is common here in the button? What is required in the button? It's only just the text, nothing else. So I am going to just copy this code here. Button is even more simple. Copy the code here, put it inside this. I'll say txt, close, and I'll put this here. I'm going to take this text colon equal to close quotes, concatenate, and the variable here, text. Save it. Now go here. I'm going to call UTTV button of what is the text? Okay. Now let me run this from here. Let me run this from here. See, I'm able to log in. You see? Now this value that you are passing inside can be put into a Excel sheet. Okay. So based on the Excel sheet that you are running, you can change the application. How is that? Right? So you capture this agent name, put it in the Excel sheet. So you capture the value and put it in the Excel sheet. Just call the function here. Edit, if you want to, it's a text box, you can change the function name to more readable format, like you can say TXTBOX. So you know it's a text box. This is a button. So if I come here, I will change the function name to that. Instead of putting edit, you can put it as TXTBOX. I'll change it to TXTBOX. So now you know this, right? So all you need to do is open an Excel sheet, column 1, what is the property name, column 2, value, and keep adding that. So now I'm going to use the same property. I'm just going to use the same property 0, 11, 29, 15 for this button. Okay. What is this? Oh, 11, not 10, 11. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to use the same property for this button. For this button, what is the, let's see what is the description name, the text. We need the text, right? Yeah, I'm not putting today's date. I'm putting a future date. That's okay. What is the text? Text is flight. So I'm going to take this, copy it and put it here. Put it here. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to give button. Paste it here. Done. Okay. Now I'm going to run this step. Just this step. I'm going to run this step. Run. What happened? This is not a button. It is a button, right? Page not identifying this. Tool, object identification. Let's see. Windows object, button, native class, and text, right? So it might need a native class also. That's why it's not identifying. So let's put a native class also here. We have to do all these things. Sometimes, it doesn't work out straight away like this. Let's do this and see whether it is highlighting. Just put this and see whether it's highlighting. Highlight. Let's run this and see whether it's highlighting. Run from step, text. Oh, it's not login, right? It's flight reservation. It will not highlight. Hold on. That's window of flight reservation. Window of, what is the mandatory property for Windows? Where is window? Here, window. We need these two. That is, this style window is one window we can ignore. Reg Express Win class and Reg Express Win title. So these are two things that we need. So let's go here, object spy, go and capture this object. Let's see. Title and class. These are the two things that is required. The title is this one. Let's see whether it's able to identify with the title. And what is this? let's see whether it's able to identify just with the title. And title is this. And let me take this to the next line. Commented. No, it's not able to. What is this? Object does not support window.highlight. Stop. Highlight allampa. Highlight. Highlight. See, it's able to identify. So now let's see whether it is able to pick up this particular button. Button. Yeah, it's able to pick up. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that this comes under the flight reservation. Sorry, this comes under window, and in our function call, we put dialog. So now what we need to do is we need to create another function which says this will be D. And now I'll create another function W. Okay. Now I'll copy this code there. Window of flight reservation dot bin button. Control C and put this here. Okay. I don't need this highlight. Dot click, and this would be like this. Concatenate txt. Fine. Now wherever I use my flight reservation button, I can use that, or if it's a dialog, I will use D. It's D button, or other one is W button, right? Yeah, W button. W button. Now the same button, I can, if you want, I can click on to anyone else here. But this also again, for the different window, I will use for the same, all these text boxes, I can write one edit box. So this again, that we'll say, if this text box is for dialog box, we'll create another text box for Windows. So we'll say D and W. So creating, this is a one-time creation of this function, right? And then what we can do is we can put this into our function call and call wherever we require. If it's a window, wherever we are calling this data, we'll load the, we'll load the Excel sheet first, and then we will pass on our variables from the data table into this particular value. Guys, you are able to understand this. You are able to understand this. Anyone who did not understand, I'll re-explain this. Anyone? Okay. Now what I did, where did you, till which point you understood? Till which point you understood? The whole string representation you didn't understand, or the second part that I told you didn't understand?
Second part.
Second part. Okay. Now what I am doing.
Created the function library, right?
Yeah. So here this you understood, right? Now for every text box I am writing one line code, full line of code, right? Instead of that, what I am doing is I am creating a function library. Okay, let me take this out. I am creating a function library where I am going to create a library for dialog text box. This is for a dialog box. Okay. I'm creating a function call for a text box, and then what I will do for my launch, for my this one and this one, what is the difference in these two? Can you tell me what is the unique value in line number 34 and 35? Unique data in this.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? You're able to hear me?
Hello? Hello?
Hey, can you hear me? Hello?
Hello?
Anyone who is not able to hear me? Hey, Srisha, can you hear me? Okay. I think it's your mic, your side problem, I think. Can you hear me? I think your side problem will come back to you. Yeah. So what I'm doing here is that, what am I doing here? If you see in these two lines, that is line number 34 and 35, you will see the unique data here is agent name and the value that you are passing. Here the unique data is password, because the dialog is text login, text is login. Only your agent name text is changing. So what I did, I created a function call where I passed two variables. That is my agent, the WinEdit attached text and the value. So what I did here, now when I passed these two values, I put a quote, I closed the double quote here, concatenate, and then pass the parameter, the variable here. So this is how you have to write. Attach text colon equal to close quote, concatenate, and then the variable here. So what will happen? I just need to call the function name here. So I'll say d txt box. Correct? Is the function call correct? Yeah, txt box. And then I will pass the value here. What is the value here? I need to give the agent name. This we already got from the object spy, right? Agent name, close quote. Oh, I forgot to copy the colon. Yeah, comma. What is the value I need to pass? I want to pass Rajesh. Then again there is another text box. So I'll say again, I'll use the same dialog. Since it's a dialog, I'll use the same. I'll say password, close, comma. What is the password? MERCURY. Okay. Then I have a button, right? So what did I give the program for button? The function name is dialog button. So I say dialog of button. What is the value here? Here only one thing, text has to go. So I'll say okay. Okay. So this will give me the value. So now if I run this, it will launch and allow me to log into the application. You see, I am able to log into the application. One more time. Let's do for the browser now. We'll see how to work with the browser. But as I told you, browser is slightly different. We'll work for string representation. String representation, I'm going to work with browser. Let's see how to work with the browser. Now, when you're looking at the tool object identification, go to web. And you see, click on the browser. There is no mandatory property. While frame, image, everything has a mandatory property. Browser and page has no mandatory property. You see, web edit also has a mandatory property. Browser, no mandatory property for browser, no mandatory property for your this one, or you say for your page. So how do you create an object or create or work with what do you say? How do you work with string representation using or descriptive programming for browser, for a web-based application? Let's see how to work with it. Now, you know what is the class for the browser, right? So I'll say browser. Browser is the class. Now here, instead of me using a mandatory property there, which I don't have a mandatory property, so how do I use it? So for a browser, you will always use mic class. Mic class is used for the browser. Now let's see whether it is highlighting. Dot. Let's open a browser and let's see whether it is highlighting a browser. Okay, I'm going to run this step. Why is it not? What is happening? Okay, mic class. Ah, sorry. What am I doing? Why did I not put this equal to browser? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do with Sugar CRM only. Hold on. But I'm just wanted to see where did I miss? So, yeah, mic class is equal to browser. Correct. So let me highlight this. I just wanted to highlight whether it is. What is the mistake I did here? Let's use another one, comma, title. Let's see what this guy is identifying. Tool, check representation, add object, browser. Okay, just selected object, browser, ordinal. So it's not taking anything. So we'll take the title. So what we will do, I will start Sugar CRM on fast track. Sugar CRM start here. Okay, so I can close this. What is the title? 127.0.0.1. So I will use that title. Okay. No one told me about this myth. Might be that's the mistake that I'm using. Let's do this now again. Run from top, run. You see, it's able to highlight, right? So for browser, we do not have a mandatory property. So we use mic class, MIC_CLASS colon equal to browser. That's what we use for a browser. Similarly, for a page, we don't have anything for a page. So we use the same thing. Mic class, and instead of browser, we put page. Instead of browser, we use page. Okay. Dot. Now, what is the property name here? What is the property name that we wanted to put? Web edit is this. Now we need to know what is it? Can you repeat?
We have written a string representation we have written a script, right? So when we run it, how does the Sugar CRM got highlighted? I mean, how they both got connected? So
It does not know you're running for Sugar CRM. What you are saying, browser.mic class. Now there is only one browser. That's why we always say open only one browser, right?
Okay.
So it knows that this is a browser. You know this is a browser, right? Don't think about Sugar CRM.
Yes, I know.
You know this is a page, right? Don't think about Sugar CRM.
Okay. Yeah, that's what actually.
Now, when I am going to go and show here, I want to put the username. That's where your entire stuff is going to come in. So now I'll go to Tools, Object Identification, Web. What is my WinEdit? Web Edit. HTML tag, name and type. These are the three mandatory properties that is required.
Okay.
So let me clear it up. Control A. I don't need this. HTML tag, name, type. Okay, name, type. Now I'll put, this is for my WinEdit, right? So I'll put a colon equal to for everything. We can find out whether all the three are really required. Okay, so to edit, and we'll also take the button. Button and web edit are the same. Name, tag and type. You see, button and web edit are the same. The properties, mandatory properties are the same. So I'll copy this 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So now I need to go to object spy. I need to spy the object. Okay, web edit. Username. Now what is the HTML ID? HTML ID is username. HTML ID, no, HTML tag. HTML tag is input. Name is what? What is the name? Name is username. And what is the type? Type is text. Type is text. So what I will do, first I'll create a object here and see whether it is able to highlight. So I'll say web edit of, what is the first one? We'll see which all is required. I feel only name is required. So let's see. Do we name is more than enough or what? Highlight. Let's see whether it's able to highlight. Done. Yeah, perfect. So name is more than enough. Okay. So name is more than enough. So what I will do, I'm going to create a function library. I'm going to create a function library for my web edit. So I'll say WEB text box. Okay, web text box. And what is the only one value? 2 values have to come, set and name. So I'll say name, comma, txt or value. Now I'll copy and paste this here. The whole thing, Control C, put it here. Now I'll take this, take it out, and I'll say SCT VAL, and here I'll close this quote, take the whole thing out, concatenate NAM. So now I've created a function library for my WinEdit, right? Now I don't need this. I'm going to take this out. Okay. And I'm going to say web text box and the values that I need to pass here. What are the values? Value is, first is the name of the text box. What is the name of the text box? Okay. I have it here. Name of the text box name is username. Username, comma, what is the value? Value that I need to pass. Value that I need to pass is will. Again, there is the same text box, web text box only. Well, let me see what is the name for this. Okay. What is the name here? Name should be user underscore password. Yes, name is user underscore password. Close. This should be user underscore password. User underscore password. Now I'm going to write the function library for win button. Win button also only same thing. So I need only the name. So I'll copy the same function here. Just copy and put it here and say win button. Web button. Web button. Here it should be web button. Okay. And name equal to, and this should be click. Right, because it's a button, right? So I'll save this here. Rest all is the same. I don't need two values here. I just need the name. Save. Go here. Web button. What is the button? Name of the button. I have to find the name of the button. So go to object spy and spy this object. Button name is, I think, login. Yeah, name is login. Okay. So now I'll give login. Now let's run this code. Let's run this. Run. What happened to the web button? Login object is not found in the object repository. Something wrong we did with the button. Let's see what is to the button. Felt it because when I put a space, it didn't come. Function library did not come. What happened? Correct only I put. It's not coming. Oh, that's because might be the class name is button, right? So I'll just put a BU. It might be because it's taking the same class name. Now it will come. Yeah, now it's coming. Okay. Let's refresh this page. I'm going to delete all these things, and I'm going to run from top. Run. You see, I'm able to log in. I'm able to log into the application. Now, I'm going to open another web-based application, and let's use the same code and see whether it's working. Okay. The another application that I'm going to start programs, ALM platform, Mercury Tours. Okay. That's another web-based application. What's happening with this now? And platform Mercury Tours. Is that not coming up? LM platform, Mercury Tours. Seriously? What happened to this now? Why is this not coming up? Let's load runner. Ah, yeah, finally it's coming up. Okay. It took such a long time to come up. Okay, fine. Now we have the application, web-based application here. I'm going to close this. Okay, fine. Now we have a username and a password here. See, and a sign in. But this half won't work because oh my god, that's not a button. Okay, similar kind of an application. Sorry, I opened it so many times. It's open now. Only it's reacting to it. Now let's see what is this. Let's go to QTP. Here, see, that's an edit box. Okay, that's an edit box. So I'm fine with it. This one is not a button. You see, that's not a button. It's a image. So at least I'm going to use the same code for my login and for my username and password. Let's use the same code. Edit, edit. So that's what is this. So for my button, what do I need? I need so for my edit box, I need the name, right? Name is user underscore user name. Let's create a copy of it. This is user name. And what is for the password? Password is, what is the name? Password. So name is password. Okay. Now I'm going to use the same thing. So I'm going to only have my Mercury open here. Yes, sign is an image. It's not a button. So I can't use the same code. But I'm going to use the same code for my username and password. The same thing. Okay. So I have my Mercury tour open here. Fine. Now I will go here. I will use uname here. I'll pass this. Usually it will be a button in every application, but these guys have given it in what do you say, text box. Sorry, image file. Any application you will see, it will be usually a button. Okay, and I'll give. Let me see whether my login works. That's an image because in the object identification, when I saw that, you see here, when I do my object identification, see. You see, that's an image. That's an image. You don't need to have a button in order for logging into the application. Okay. What is this? Now I want to check whether the username and password works. Let's see. Rajesh Mercury. No. Why? What happened? No. So let me register the form here. Okay. Go to my sign in page. This is a button, right? Let me see whether this is a button. Looks like a button. No, that's also an image. No, that's also an image. Okay. Let's put the username and password here. See, this is the same, right? Is it the same? Uname is the same. Edit name, username. Yeah, that's the same. So let me put my username and password here. So I put my username here as Rajesh and the password is Mercury. All right, Mercury. Let me run this. This is not going to run. Not going to run. So let me run here from here. Run. You see, guys? So the code that I developed for one application can be used for multiple applications. So if you create another Excel sheet and put this data there, the same code works for this Excel. You cannot do this with object repository. You cannot do this with object repository. That's why most of the time when you create frameworks, they use descriptive programming, string representation, and they create with function calls.